So I've sat down with them and given them the sort of the Will golden rules, if you like, as to what you should do, what you shouldn't do. And that doesn't dilute the ability to promote your brand, but what it does do is ensure that you're doing it safely and you're not exposing yourself to risks unnecessarily. The problem is, I think Meghan is a bit of a runaway train.
Hi, all. Kinsey Schofield here, and joining me today is one of the world's leading security and threat assessment experts, Will Geddes. With more than 30 years of experience in specialist security, counterterrorism, and high risk protection, Will has advised clients around the globe on some of the most complex security challenges imaginable. Today, we're discussing whether Meghan Markle's increasingly glamorous Hollywood image could be creating new security concerns. Will, thank you so much for being here today. Of course, when I think of, well, I was going to say royal security, I think of you, which I do. But Meghan Markle, she quit her job. She's not a royal any. This is a citizen that we're talking about today.
Yeah. I mean, Kinsey, thank you again for inviting me on your channel. It's always a massive delight and an honor and a privilege. Um, yes, Meghan, where can we start? She is kind of like, I would say, the nightmare client for
Oh,
people like me,
wow.
because you have this continual imbalance or balancing act, if you like, that you have to measure against her brand and security that obviously needs to protect her. Now, the biggest consideration is that it's actually Meghan's brand, which is probably the greatest risk to the entire family, which puts into dispute the various requests by Prince Harry. We're in a situation here where there's Meghan's demands and requirements to try and get her brand out there to the bigger, wider world, which by itself draws its own particular issues and concerns. And those concerns primarily are going to be the wide spectrum of threats, which are going to see them as viable targets. And that's on so many different levels.
I This is almost unrelated to what we're talking about, but it's a question I've had on my mind for a few days that I wanted to ask you just in general. Is it realistic for Prince Harry to assume that he can recreate the type of security that he once had? Is it realistic for him? I mean, are we when we discuss the security that the British royal family has on a daily basis? I mean, Harry doesn't want to live in the UK. He wants to live in the United States, or he wants to live in Canada, or wherever he wants to live. I've just been thinking to myself lately, that is a really tough goal to try to recreate something that has been perfected for so long. You know, you train the type of people that work with the British royal family. A lot goes into the strategy, the physical requirements. Is it just an unrealistic goal to think that you can have that type of security everywhere in the world?
Well, I think it's going to be impossible for him to recreate it for many, many reasons. And we've covered this on previous shows. And that's really the sovereign level of security which is afforded to the royal family. And the royal family is a brand that has been in existence for hundreds of years. And it's something which is very carefully managed, both in terms of how that brand is presented, but over and beyond which, what are the levels or measures of security that can be afforded around it? Now, if you're a private individual, and I've had many Hollywood actors and actresses and people in the public eye who are their own personal brand, whether it be the movies that they're in or whether it's the products they're endorsing. And by direct correlation, the problems that you face are more likely to be third party in many regards. So that's going to be disclosure of information. A good example of this was when Harry and Meghan did their interview for Netflix, and they did their series where, albeit they filmed it in a neighbor's home, there was some 70 or 80 crew members that were involved in that process. And they created a map of the entire area of Montecito, marking out obviously key areas where they were going to plan and schedule some of the filming. But in addition to that, there was obviously a marking of where Harry and Meghan's home was, because obviously they needed to transport them every day back and forth for them to do the filming. Now, there are those members of the crew, one would like to hope are highly professional, would not disclose obviously any details around when they were doing the filming, what vehicles they were using to move obviously Harry and Meghan to the set, if you like.
Mhm.
And one of the concerns is that they only have to share information on their own social media, albeit they're very excited. They post a picture and go, hey, day one, day five, day 90
Yeah.
of filming with Prince Harry and Meghan in Montecito with identifiers that could be potentially exploited by criminals to identify and precisely locate where they might be. So the concern is the more that Meghan is out there on Instagram posting photographs of herself, whether that be wearing expensive jewelry or not, means that she is constantly creating a time lapse, which is very, very short for security to keep up on top of.
So the headline we're working with today is Meghan Markle kidnap fears exposed. Why bling-loving Duchess has put a target on her back by draping herself in jewels everywhere she goes. And, honestly, that is an accurate description, in my opinion. Every time we see Meghan make an appearance anywhere, it's Meghan's $70,000, $100,000 worth of jewelry. She's wearing Princess Diana's former whatever. She's got this, her engagement ring's been upgraded yet again. I've never seen a woman that's had her engagement ring redone so many times. How bored are you? But there is a fixation on the amount of and when she's like in foreign countries and she's supposed to be representing like charitable entities, she's dripping in all of this jewelry, and you're just thinking, is this the appropriate place? From a professional security standpoint, does repeatedly showcasing high value jewelry and luxury items on social media or media photos just being captured by People magazine increase a celebrity's risk profile? And of course, I'm thinking about Kim Kardashian in Paris.
Yeah, it's that's probably the best example one can imagine. That and Tamara Eccleston here in London, who in her 50 million pound house in Kensington was targeted. And what has been subsequently uncovered was the amount of tracking that was undertaken by the threat groups to identify when was the best time to launch an attack. But it works really, Kinsey, on two areas. The first of which is a precise piece of jewelry which could be immensely attractive to the criminals. And Kim Kardashian posting a photograph of that ring that she had was a blatant invitation to criminals to then target her. But the second side is what we call the kidnap threshold. And the kidnap for ransom threshold will often be dictated by the criminals as to what they think is the threshold they can demand a ransom to. So if someone's got many hundreds of thousands or many millions of pounds worth of or dollars worth of jewelry, then the criminals may see that as a easy and accessible means of accessing the amount of money that they need for ransom. So they may even demand it. And I know this from managing a number of kidnapping cases where precise items have been used as the ransom demand. And
Wow.
that could be a painting by a famous artist, or it could be a particular piece of jewelry.
First of all, can you explain to me what is wealth signaling? And is there a difference between wealth signaling and an actual actionable security threat, or do the two inevitably overlap in high profile cases?
Again, astute as ever, Kinsey. Yes, there is a very much an overlap between the two of them. So the security measures obviously will look at what they see as the perceivable risks. So that could be fixated people in the terms of obviously Harry and Meghan, fixated people, fans, individuals who want to get a photograph, whether it be paparazzi or whether it be individuals that really are just, if you like, obsessed by them. But then you've got the criminals that will hide in plain sight. And the concern that you have with wealth signaling is that when she's turning up to particular events, again, we've seen this in her Instagram, and we can go into great more detail on actually doing a deep dive on her Instagram, if you
Yeah.
wish, where we can go into what she's actually put up, which would be really an ideal trigger for a criminal group and particularly professionals to go, great, that's a brilliant opportunity. And the one thing we know with Meghan is she's a little tone deaf with her timing. I'll give you one example. She was talking about obviously putting pictures of her, or she actually did post some pictures of her own children. And then literally 24 hours later, she's in Geneva talking about the protection of children online. So we know that she's almost a law unto herself, which is why I said at the beginning, she's the nightmare kind of client.
Yeah.
But going back many years when Twitter, for example, first came out, before it became X, I remember I had a number of celebrities who would call me up and they'd say, Will, the paparazzi found me and I went out for a really private dinner in this small little bistro in sort of the east side of Manhattan. And I said, well, I wonder why. You just posted a picture going, I'm having a delightful dinner at this little bistro on the east side of Manhattan. So,
Well, or the bling
the
ring. Do you
criminals.
remember the bling ring? How those
Yeah, I
kids
do
would get
indeed.
on,
And
yeah, the
yeah,
MySpace,
yeah.
MySpace.
I mean, the bling ring has evolved hugely. I mean, those were fan obsessives who used the social media of Lindsay Lohan and Paris Hilton. And I know Paris. Paris is a really smart, very smart woman. This sort of ditzy bimbo that she comes across as is all an act. I can tell you for sure. She's a very smart, hugely charming, lovely person. But again, it's that desire or need to put stuff up on social media, which is making an enemy for themselves.
Hmm.
And you take the bling ring, they were a bunch of obsessives on celebrities. They targeted her, Lindsay Lohan, as I mentioned, and a few others. It's evolved hugely since then. The whole home invasion, the whole criminal targeting. You have groups that will fly in from other countries to carry out these home invasions and burglaries. And there's one particular group that was responsible for 90 home invasions in 2022 alone.
Wow. And you see a lot of it in when I'm watching the local news. Those stories continue, but they're like influencers that I've never heard of, but they are influencers that run, have a million Chanel bags and all of these expensive things that are posting this stuff on social media. So it's just evolved, or I'm just geriatric and old and don't recognize these people anymore. But it still continues today. But yeah, Meghan Markle's brand leans heavily into that aspirational luxury. At what point because this is what I assumed you were talking about when you said she was a nightmare client. At what point does curated glamour become a genuine operational security concern? I love that it was about her just being oblivious and doing one thing and saying one thing and doing the other. But I mean, could her security team be having conversations about, I wish she would stop doing this because it's increasing our concerns?
Yeah, they would be, and how deaf Meghan may be to it would be. I mean, I would imagine, and speculating if, say, I was looking after them, I'd be speaking to Harry, who would understand security perhaps a great deal more
Mhm.
than Meghan, who was a sort of third, fourth tier Hollywood actress,
Yeah.
who really hadn't been into the scrutiny of the public eye until obviously she married Prince Harry, whereupon it probably came as a huge shock. And I've had a few people who've become that overnight sensation and really been absolutely blinded by what level of attention they've now been subject to. So I would say that they would hopefully be talking to Prince Harry, and Prince Harry would be the one to communicate it through to Meghan. But Meghan is so thirsty for attention, so thirsty to get her brand out there. The problem is that again, you have this balancing act between what she wants to do and what she needs to do and what she should do.
She is so thirsty for attention, and it feels like we've seen the videos of her in the VHS tapes in the car going to the Shakira, audition, music video auditions. We've seen how she struggled with Hollywood rejection and irrelevance until she booked Suits. And she's so determined to prove something to somebody. That's what it feels like when you watch some of the things she's posting. It's like she's talking directly to her enemies.
Yeah.
Why are you so fixated on proving that you have this life or this lifestyle? It seems completely irrational for two people that claim that they feel like they're constantly in jeopardy.
Yeah, I mean, and again, you're right. Again, you're right, Kinsey. The thing which is really such an oxymoron is the question that they were pushing out that the half the reason or the main reason they left the United Kingdom was because of the attention they were getting from the press.
Mhm.
And yet here she is courting the press every opportunity she possibly can. Now, she may not directly correlate that putting stuff on Instagram is courting press. Well, yes, it is, and it's doing it in the purest sense. Criminals will use social media to find out everything they possibly can. And then you have the metadata, which is connected obviously to the photographs, which again you can intrinsically examine to identify again locations where it's actually being taken. I've seen logs carried out or created by criminals that will look at patterns of behavior. We all have, Kinsey, what we call a pattern of life. Now, although we have very sort of spontaneous jobs where we're reacting and responding to situations, there will be still certainties in our lifestyle, whether it be the day that we go to the gym, the time that we go to the gym that we go to, where we shop, where we eat, where we socialize with friends. All of these become parts of our pattern of life. And criminals will do what we call OSINT or open source intelligence gathering across a celebrity's social media to determine what that pattern of life is. And if you're as prolific as, for example, Meghan, you're going to be able to determine that pattern of life pretty quickly. And you'll be able to see that she will post just before she heads to the airport. It could be, here are all my bags, or here's me and my kids in my dressing room choosing the items I'm looking to wear. And then you go over to cross reference to other open source to find out whether Meghan's going to be talking at an event and where that's going to be. So it's not just at the
How
home
long
or it's
she's going
not
to be
just at the
gone,
event.
which if you know how long she's going to
Exactly.
be gone, you know how long you might that's the timeline you might be working with. Can I just say though that God bless metadata because that's how I found out a boyfriend was cheating on me, ex-boyfriend, clearly. He was
I
like,
hope
"That's
so.
an old photo. That's an old photo." And I was like, I sent it to my brother, who said he felt like, what did he? He said he felt, he was like, I cracked the case. I feel like Matlock. But he could see exactly where the photo was taken, when the photo was taken, and it was in the time. It was not within the timeline he'd originally claimed. So I was like, "See ya."
Yeah. Yeah, good for
So
you.
yeah,
And to be
thank
honest,
you. Oh, thank you.
most of you ladies are usually the best detectives out there anyway. I mean, it's shocking the amount of information you can find out about us boys.
Yeah,
So, to the other chaps who are watching this, be very careful because these girls have skills you don't even know. So,
exactly.
yeah, I mean, the metadata is one thing. There is so, I mean, and you talk about obviously the displays of wealth and also particularly the movements and when they're going to be away. And this is where we had some significant problems with many of the Premiership football players, the star football players in the United Kingdom, where they would head off to Marbella or the Maldives or wherever it was, and they'd post a picture of them, with their hot dog legs or whatever it might be, dancing about in the pool, having a fabulous time in the Maldives. Now, for the criminal, that's fantastic. They
Yeah,
go, great, we know you're away, so let's go and have a look at the property.
right.
But criminals are sophisticated in what they'll do. There are elements where they'll run surveillance on the property itself. They will put covert cameras into the bushes by the entrance to the house or in a car which is parked up outside the house to see what the pattern of life is for not only the principals, not only the potential targets, but their staff, any people that are coming in. And then you've got the exploitation, possibly of those staff members. I mean, it's like in the kidnap world, we call it the 70% rule. And in most kidnappings, in 70% of them, there will be someone who's connected directly to the target.
Ooh, that's terrifying. Yeah. I mean, well,
Yeah.
we talked about how we still see home invasions or these bling ring type of robberies in Los Angeles. Not so much kidnappings, but are celebrity kidnappings and luxury home invasions still considered realistic threats in places like Montecito? Or
Yeah.
is that fear exaggerated by media coverage? Because Montecito is littered with the most rich, the most famous people. They've fled LA because LA is so dangerous and scary. And now it's like Oprah and Rob Lowe and Ellen DeGeneres and Katy Perry and this little cluster of A-listers in Montecito. You might assume that that would enhance everyone's security standards because you just assume everybody's got their own team and they might communicate with each other if necessary.
Yeah, no, Montecito is an element to itself. So you're right in some regards. You've got a lot of celebrities there that will have their own personal security. It also falls under its own governance as well. So it isn't necessarily lent on or supported by California. So you have their own police department, the sheriff's department. You've also got, in addition to that, various security patrols that are running around generally. But the concern you have is because you have this convergence of celebrities, you have a convergence of all their fans.
Mhm.
So again, it comes back to this hiding in plain sight. So people will go to Montecito, and I've got a couple of friends who live there, dear friends, and they've said, yeah, you're never shy on a weekend of lots of visitors to Montecito to come and have a look at this beautiful place. To try and capture a photograph of Ellen DeGeneres or Meghan going to get a Starbucks or whatever it
Yeah.
might be.
Yeah.
So the criminals will bleed in amongst them. The bling gang or they had the ability to dress like celebrities. So when they went to parties and then they robbed places or they were doing the reconnaissance, they wouldn't stand out of place. Or they wouldn't look out of place. The same with the other concern that you have with Montecito is that because it falls within a particular sort of fault line in terms of earthquakes, floods, and fires,
Mm.
the concern is that there is also a directive that universally applies. We saw similar with the California fires the end of last year, I believe it was, or was it the beginning of this year? I can't remember.
Yeah, last year.
But everybody will have an enforced evacuation. Now, trying to enforce an evacuation, getting everybody out of there, means that not everybody can take all their valuables with them. So, again, a criminal coming in, instigating a fire, for example, could potentially create opportunity for a highly organized gang to get in there and start robbing lots of different houses.
Oh, remember? Yeah, they did that at the Pacific Palisades. They were catching
Yes.
people like stealing from these poor victims, and they had to
Mm.
go in and like enforce 24/7 security. And the country or the state was already so strapped for those government workers that the people started hiring their own security to protect their homes. It was overwhelming. All right, so Meghan and Harry, as we've discussed in the past, are consistently arguing that they face elevated threats because of their profile. But does highly visible luxury branding strengthen or weaken that argument from a security perspective? If you're their personal security guard and Meghan's just draping on the jewelry before they walk out the door, or are you going, come on, give me a break, lady?
It weakens their case.
Yeah.
It completely weakens their case. It weakens Harry's case in court to try and wrestle back some sort of royalty protection provision. It certainly wrestles back any IPP status. Most people that have IPP status, and I know certainly from the comments on previous videos, a lot of people have said, "Oh, they're just after IPP status." Absolutely, they are. They would love to have it, but anybody that's on IPP status will be very, very, very discreet about what they do, where they go, what they wear, and they maintain their profile in an entirely professional fashion. Not look at me, this is what I'm doing on a lovely Sunday afternoon, which is the problem that you have with Meghan. So everything that Harry is trying to achieve by justifying that they have a risk and they have a viable risk against them, which I do believe they have, is undermined then by Meghan posting various personal photographs of what she's doing, where she's going, and especially the point I know that you're particularly nailing to is the wealth. Again, displaying unnecessary levels of wealth, whether it be a stunning £5 million necklace by Harry Winston, you'll notice with many celebrities that they will only wear something like that at a major event, like, for
Well,
example,
the
the
royal
Oscars.
family, the royal
Yeah,
family, you only see the tiaras come out for state events. You only see
yeah.
the historic jewels come out, some of the brooches and the necklaces when they have an official formal event. Yes, to celebrities too, the Oscars, the Emmys, typically that stuff is borrowed too, which I would be so frightened to wear something borrowed, like, oh my gosh. But that's the
You need to
thing
have
is
me
like,
with you, Kinsey. If you do,
oh,
then I'll
that's
make
right.
sure.
Yeah, yeah, I'll be fine. I'll be safe. But also, Catherine, I think in Italy, we saw her wearing like a $25 friendship bracelet with her children's initials on it. Catherine, she might be wearing an expensive, nice suit, but she certainly doesn't show off in kind of a materialistic way. I don't believe. When I look at her, I don't go, there's Catherine in $100,000 outfit. But we do have that reaction to Meghan because she's got a bracelet, she's got a wrist with 20 bracelets on it. She's got a ring on every finger. She's very over the top.
Yeah, I mean, there's such a stark difference between Catherine and or Kate and Meghan. And Kate has done this amazingly curated branding where she's wearing high street fashion. It could be a Zara outfit, which is so accessible to the general public and people who are followers and supporters, and they can go, that looks amazing on her. I can nip down there. I'm not going to break the bank. I can buy exactly the same jacket, shirt, whatever it might be, pants that she was wearing. The problem with Meghan is, and again, it's this, you may have noticed also with Kim Kardashian, she has scaled down hugely valuable items that she's wearing. She will wear very extravagant sort of outfits, but the jewelry has been scaled down hugely outside of any major events like the Met Gala or anything like that. So again, she's conscious because she had a horrible experience in Paris, as we all know. And that's enough of, unfortunately, of a shocker for her to realize, you know what? Doing this blatantly just for my own vanity is probably not the best thing in the world. I'll do it when it's necessary and when it's correct.
Yeah, and I think that shift is very visible, and it's made her, in my opinion, a more likable character. Having her showing off all of her, well, now she shows off her facelifts, and now she shows off the work she's had done, which I mean is not very relatable. But instead of kind of thrusting all of this luxury, you know, junk on us,
Mm.
in showing us more of like her being a mom. I think that it's kind of changed our attitude towards her. You've answered this question, but spell it out for me. Is there tension between building a luxury lifestyle brand and maintaining a low profile security wise?
No, there isn't.
Oh,
You can do it. It can be done. It
oh,
can be done,
wow.
but it's got to be done hand in hand with security. It's got to
Mm,
be done in a very carefully managed way. I've done this with clients where I've sat down with them and said, you know what, if we have to retrofit this solution later, it's going to cost you a heck of a lot more. It's going to be more problematic. There's going to be a huge behavioral change that you're going to have to maintain. So we need to get in very early. You need to be advised and you need to listen to that advice. That's the hard part for many of them.
Megan.
That this is done in your best interest. This is done in a way to make sure that you're safe. And the same applies. I've done this with friends of mine's children. And again, this is another thing we can talk about at another time, where they're trying to build their brand as influencers in various different ways. So I've sat down with them and given them the sort of the Will golden rules, if you like, as to what you should do, what you shouldn't do. And that doesn't dilute the ability to promote your brand. But what it does do is ensure that you're doing it safely and you're not exposing yourself to risks unnecessarily. The problem is, I think Meghan is a bit of a runaway train, Kinsey, if I'm honest.
What a great line. That's such a great line. Megan is a runaway train. But in your experience, do public figures sometimes underestimate how much they reveal unintentionally through curated content? Because we do know that Megan is she's trying to tell us, she's trying to force a narrative that is not very authentic, but she is
Yeah.
certainly trying to create and paint a picture for us, and she wants us to swallow it whole. but she might not realize, like the closet photo she takes with Lily, what exactly she's giving away in a photograph like that. Do public figures not, even though they think they're being careful or they've watched the video 3 times before they upload it, do you think that sometimes they don't realize exactly what they're giving away?
I mean, there was a very well-known impresario here in the UK who had a documentary done on himself that I was looking after. And when the crew came up and he was sort of opening the door for people to come in and meet him, I said, I don't want any video whatsoever of the inside of the door because I don't want people to see what type of lock he's got, how many locks he's got, what are the security measures in the house. So I worked with the production team to make sure that there was no compromise of information. And the problem with Meghan is she'll just put it out there. I don't think
Right.
she's talking to.
Well, you mentioned, the idea of some of these security cameras and how people can use the net to knock those out. How much of celebrity security today is physical protection versus cyber intelligence and even monitoring online fixation, which you've addressed a little bit today too?
Yeah, it all goes hand in hand, Kinsey. It's
Mm,
all different slices of the one big pie. So
yeah.
if you don't manage one of those areas, that's a vulnerability. So it all goes together. And the same is in terms of obviously our day-to-day lives. What moment of the day do we not pick up our phone and use various different apps, whether it be a taxi app or Uber, or it's our social media, or it's our emails, whether it be planning where we're going to be going, what events we're going to be attending. So it all goes together, and you need to make sure that that's evolved together. And the same is with social media. So when Meghan actually is about to post a photograph, sadly, it doesn't seem that she has anybody that she trusts, and it can be down to trust. I mean, I know some principles that I've come in to recover their paranoia from. I'm a strong believer in removing paranoia, not instilling it. And the problem with a lot of security is they like to instill paranoia because that equates through to how much they're going to spend or how much, they're going to make from this. So it's a case of sitting down and saying, okay, what do you want to achieve? What do you want to do? Let's achieve that, but let's achieve it by the safest means possible. So going back to the Twitter analogy I used earlier of the bistro on the east side of New York, it would be a case of, look, have a fabulous dinner, help this small business succeed and win, but don't post it until a few hours after you've actually left, or post it the next day. Nobody really needs to know that you were there right that very second.
Yeah. That is a rule that I've typically held on to for probably a decade now. As, can we say hi?
You can say hi. He's very warm.
Oh,
He may
very,
have to join for the rest of the interview, I'm afraid.
no, we
He's
love that.
he's very needy at the moment.
That's
It
so
woke me up at
sweet.
3 o'clock.
Oh yeah, I know that struggle. You kind of mentioned this earlier, so I apologize if this sounds repetitive. You mentioned, I want to make sure that we protect the door, but in general, if you were advising a public figure launching a lifestyle, like a luxury lifestyle brand today, what would you
Mm.
tell them never to reveal publicly? Is there a list in your head, or do you immediately think of something Meghan has exposed that you think I would have deleted that immediately?
Yeah, I would. There are sort of key identifiers. So if it's at your home, I would be very careful about photographing any. And again, I advise a lot of people on this. Be careful of what you are showing in the background. You may have the kids or the chickens or the goat or whatever it might be, or the cat that you've got there. But be very careful about what is in the background that someone can locate you and identify where you are. So it could be a church, it could be the Hollywood Hills in your case. It could be, anything which people can then get together. It's amazing that what some of these people can do out there to take a blade of grass and work out what kind of blade of grass it is, where would you generally find it, and then narrow it down to a precise location.
Last question, but not least. Is there a contradiction between requesting heightened taxpayer funded security while simultaneously promoting a highly luxurious public image? And are those two issues, I mean, are they unrelated, or do you think that as a taxpayer in the UK, people are going to push back on that because Harry's saying Harry has said he would pay for it in the past. But that's just not a reality for him.
No.
Then anybody could say, I want armed security when I'm in the UK, and they don't want to be dealing with that. But
Yeah.
as a taxpayer in the UK, I would be sitting back going, you are just thrusting this stuff in our face. You are your own worst enemy. Why should I pay for your protection when you are rubbing your wealth in people's faces?
Yeah. I mean, it's there are two things. There's number one, they're doing their own thing. They're making their own money. What of that money is going back into the royal family? How is it serving and benefiting the United Kingdom? They're not emissaries or ambassadors for the United Kingdom, regardless of however many trips they want to do to Ukraine or Australia or Geneva for that matter. This is not promoting the brand, and it's not the British royal family brand, and it's also not working within the optics. Many of the times that Harry has presented himself at particular events, it has been in contradiction to either an event that William's attending or Prince Charles is doing, and it's taken the light away from those events to try and spotlight on himself.
Mm.
And that spotlight is to monetary gain. But you're absolutely right. Kinsey, in terms of you can't, regardless of however much he wants to pay for it, you open up a Pandora's box of problems for
Mm.
other foreign heads of state or whoever it might be who say, yeah, I'd like royalty protection when I come to the UK. We'll pay for it.
Yeah.
It's just never going to happen.
Have you had any updates from your friends at your Ravik sources? Do we feel like we're inching any closer to an official decision, or do you think Harry got the decision he didn't like, so he's laying low? Because in January they told us they were just a few weeks away from announcing he was getting everything he ever wanted.
Yeah, I think there's two aspects. There's the political aspect behind the decision making, and that it's got to be done in a suitable way, that it doesn't attribute directly back onto the royal family, that it is seen impartially. And again, they're checking on it. But my gut feeling, not that I have confirmation, Kinsey, is that decision's already been made. That
Yeah.
boat has literally sailed or sunk, depending on
Yeah.
your interpretation.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Meghan's bizarre post about like the post where she lists the plane she was on and the airline, because she posted like they gave her an anniversary card and Meghan thanks them on
Oh,
Instagram. I mean, anybody could pick up that phone, call that airline and pretend they work for Meghan Markle and get God knows what information out
yeah.
of the airline. But you know, that to me was a bizarre admission that she was in the UK. And I wondered, again, was the intent to start the debate as to whether or not she would be there this summer with Harry? I don't think she's coming this summer with Harry. And I also think that maybe the intent was just to be like, look, people like me, I swear to God. But she puts so much out there, and I just don't think it does either one of them favors in this desperate attempt to convince the world that they are in perpetual jeopardy, and every country that they visit needs to fund their security while they're there. I mean, we do know Australia picked up some of the tab,
Yeah.
and we know that other countries have done the same. And it's like, why? You're here
Mm.
for a commercial venture. You're here to try
Yes.
to sell the clothes you're wearing while you're hugging cancer kids. Why should the country be forced to cough up that security bill?
I think without Prince Harry, it wouldn't happen. She would just simply disappear into insignificance. And you're absolutely right again, Kinsey. She doth protest too much. Uh, I think we have a situation here with Meghan, where I think many of those foreign visits, they're going to start diminishing. They're going to reduce. I don't think, Australia got a lot of pushback when they did provide the financing. And again, one of the things which was also interesting, whether it was deliberate or it was well advised, or whether it was just evident that there was very little viewing of her security outside of the security that was provided to by the host nation.
Wow.
The host nation will provide security, but again, one of the things that I would say to celebrities is, you'll never see me in a photo. I remember one of the newspapers wanted to do a profile on me, and they said, "Great, can you tell us who you look after?" And I went, "No." And I said, "Well, if you can find a photograph of me with a celebrity, then good luck.
Yeah.
But there may be a good chance I may have worked for them. But
Yeah.
you'd never, you should never have security, obviously, in the background of any of your photographs, which goes back to my point earlier. But I think in terms of Meghan's future trips, I think they will recognize and wake up to the fact that they're not ambassadors for the British nation. They're not ambassadors for the royal family. They are out there to try and sell their wares.
Yeah, they're certainly not
Damn, or
ambassadors
whatever.
for us, okay? Like, let me
Yeah.
just say, Harry and Meghan, they live on an entirely different planet, and whether or not they're ambassadors for whatever foreign planet that is, I don't know. But I can tell you that they don't represent us. Well, you're going to come back soon, right? We're going to have a more
Love to.
serious conversation, and we're going to be, I think, educational and productive. So that's
Yeah,
what we call a
let's give
deep
some of your
tease.
maybe give some of your viewers some take-home stuff which they
Yeah.
can use on their own social media, or pass down to their kids or their friends, their family. It's all about keeping people safe. That's my job.
I love that. Well, Geddes, you're such a joy. Thank you so much for
Thank
spending
you.
some time with me. I had a very, insightful chat. Although after watching the Bling Ring movie, I've been highly paranoid ever since then. So I feel like I probably don't give too much away, but I'm not sure. I'll have you do a deep dive and tell me if I'm giving too
You're
much
pretty
away.
good, actually, Kinsey. I've
Thank you.
already, I don't want to sound stalkerish, but I do follow you on Insta, as you know. But no, you're pretty smart on yours, and again, it's key. It's getting the message across without compromise.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I'm going to see you again very soon. I can't wait. Bring the cats. I hope that it gets cooler where you are. And I'll see you again very soon. Oh, wait. And I should
Thank
say
you.
to the audience, agree with us, disagree with us about this
Oh
conversation.
yeah,
Let us know in the comments below and
be
say nice
kind.
things. Say nice things about Will and the cats. We look forward to seeing you very soon. Bye, everyone.